Hey people of the century, Andrew Plays One here, and we're back. We are just days away from the release of possibly the biggest film on this channel, Infinite Andrews Part 2. So naturally, I would have to show the films that matter to this universe. But no, I'm going to show every single one, and you better believe it, we're going straight to the beginning. We're going to mention why these films matter so much to the universe and why they're significant. Here's what to expect before Infinite Part 2. Okay, Trapped in the Bathroom, the prequel, was released in October of 2015. Its only significance is that's the first film in this universe, otherwise it's utter total garbage and no one should ever see it ever. Although it is available on a playlist and you can see it out of curiosity and spite, but still, next! This film is really the one that kick-started off the Andrewverse. It really set the pace for what is to come. Although it is not very good and hasn't aged well, still holds a significant title and place in the series. The basic premise is that Andrew finds a hidden magical tree that has some sinister energy behind it. And so he really... Actually, to be fair, this film really doesn't have a clear plot structure or anything like that. But it does set up a lot for what's to come in the near future, so... Hey. Okay, what is a Lego film doing in this premises? It doesn't even belong in here. Well, to be fair, this series did kickstart something off, and something that it would evolve into something much greater. You're probably wondering, what does this have to do with Infinite Andrews Part 2? Well, there are a lot of cameos in that film that you would not expect. So don't be surprised if Paul the Lego just pops up every now and then and be like, hey, what's up, I'm here. This film is kind of special. And yes, it hasn't aged well, the dialogue and audio placement is very shaky, but this is a very important film. This is the first film where I actually wrote a script for, and actually carried out the scenes. It was about like 3 scenes, but it was enough to carry a movie in around 12 minutes. Unfortunately, this movie hasn't aged well due to the restrictions of the time being, which is a common thing amongst my old films, but it is important, which I tried different angles, different shots. This is basically where I knew I wanted to do film, so there it is. What happens when young Andrew in 2016 tries to remake Jurassic Park in his mind? He gets Dinosaur Island, a botched attempt at recreating that film without realizing it's literally the same film. However, this film is special for having more than 3 characters and having a character ensemble, as well as an established villain. It's also the first film where I actually gave the role to someone else, Brian. And so that would be a recurring thing where small roles would appear in the Andrewverse. And also, technically, it was the first film I released in an August release date, so there it is. Oh god, another Trapped in the Bathroom. When can we stop milking these? Okay, this one's actually not... Okay, to be fair, it still didn't age that well as a recurring theme with all these other films. But this film is very important for establishing the concept of the Andrewverse itself. This is the first film to have another Andrew, and this is an Andrew that has appeared and will appear in Infinite Part 2. He's still alive to this very day. I'm surprised as well. Although not the original concept, this concept helped me push throughout the boundaries of what would become the Andrewverse today. Jesus, I almost forgot there was a sequel to this. Well, yeah, that was at the point where sequels were a necessity in my time. This film is important for ending an era on my channel. Now, it wasn't really established as an era back then, and it didn't really feel like the end, but since it ended something, I feel like I have to address it. This film establishes more of the sinister tree, and although it doesn't feature any Andrews, it features a continuation of the original storyline that is literally a retread of the original storyline. However, this film was the first film where I started to use GarageBand, the app where I use to make soundtracks today. And oh my god, it is very uncanny to hear those soundtracks today. These films teach me a lot of these things, and we're just about to head into another era, the second era. Whoa! I hit 100 subs! That means I could be famous on YouTube right now. If my channel existed back in 2007, This special made me realize what YouTube meant to me. It wasn't about the views or the money at all. It was making people's days and inspiring them. It's also the first time we get established to his character named Dark, Andrew 2 years from the future, who in turn created the Forbidden Tree and doesn't want Andrew to turn into himself. Kinda seems like a good guy when you think about it, but he's paraded by all this darkness, and then in the end, it took the best of him. All in all, an achievement and a milestone that teach me a lot of things. Also to not trust someone that looks like you. What? I thought the LEGO movies were over. They're a figment of the past. Well, certainly. This is one of the first films that I ever had to dealt with themes such as the past. A theme that I keep bringing back and will most likely conclude this year. The past has always been such an interesting topic for me, so I decided, let's start off with some LEGO movie. And overall, I don't think it's a bad attempt, but once again, you know what I'm gonna say. Here it is, ladies and gentlemen, the 10th film in the Andrewverse, and the one that's kick-started the Infinite series, or the Parallel Andrew series, since literally the first film was called Parallel Andrew. I recently got inspiration to start my own ensemble, a group of Andrews, and this really kick-started everything. There are some things, some story choices that I feel like I could have done way better, but then again, I have to remind myself this was back then. We have the character of Superhero who's been parodied multiple times. He has trouble with breaking his superhero code of not killing anyone, but then he learns to let that go eventually. Resistance is a war-hardened hero who really has some questionable motives, but once you get to know him, he's actually one of the nicest people. Deprived from the previous films is... oh god, he has such a depressing life. Really, this team is the only family that he's ever had. And it makes sense because he was raised by Matrix. Matrix is the one that establishes this whole team together. He's basically the glue to everything, besides Normie. Rock is another character that I've established. Basically his whole gig is he plays rock and roll. Yeah, that not much of an interesting character sheet, but I did improve his character greatly in Infinite. Okay, Andrew, what did you do this time? I didn't do anything, okay? I promise. Since I've recently learned to love the psychological genre, it's also one of the first times where I've done a character study and who Dark is and why he's like this in the first place. Some of the script writing may be a little cringe to today's standards, but I don't blame that for a product of its time. Also, Brian and Junior being in the same film, that's gonna be a recurring theme. It also further establishes the character of Future and Andrew 10 years from the Andrew we know now. Considering how they're the same Andrew, what happens to this normal Andrew affects the future Andrew. Or so we think. His character will be explored in Infinite Part 2 and how it connects to our normal Andrew. A trilogy means a perfect finale. Well, not this time. This film was originally going to be the end of the Forbidden Tree series, but I thought, this series needs a little bit more. As we're nearing halfway through the Dark Era, we see a lot of changes to Andrew and character, and what he thinks about the tree as a whole. The Prive tags along, but something happens. After fighting Dark at the end, Prive gets stabbed by Dark, and he dies. This is the first time that I've killed off a character, and oh boy, that's gonna happen a lot more. It establishes a tonal shift for the Andrewverse and how things might get more serious. We also see something in Andrew that we've never seen before in any of the previous films. Hatred. That is of course the Darkness storyline taking over Andrew, and now he has a deadline. And Dark now is trying to get Andrew to control the darkness, but the thing is, Andrew literally locked him in the tree. Yup. Aquascene. It's acquiescence. This film is basically Resistance's film. It shows most of his world and how his conflict with Andrew drives him to be better. It also starts an interesting story arc with Dark that actually hasn't been finished yet, and it will be soon. So I'd say a significant but great change. Okay, if we're gonna commit to the LEGO ride, we're gonna have to go all out. And all out with the demons of the past as well. The LEGO Revelations deals with Paul and Ollie in the past. This is the first time where I've done a film of this caliber. With a different setting, different look at storytelling, and it was a lot of fun. Actually, one of my favorite soundtracks is from this film, called You'll Be Okay. Believe it or not, it's actually my ringtone for my phone. this is when I started to love making soundtracks. Like before I was like, okay, we gotta do this mandatory process, let's put it in there. But this is the first time where I was like, oh my god, that sounds so good. The LEGO films really did a lot for me in terms of the Andrewverse. Welcome back to Avengers Age of Ultron Civil War. No. This is Fractured Andrew. A film where the team splits up. Believe it or not, it's actually very important to the story. You see, Deprive gets brought back, but the thing is, his soul isn't properly brought back, making him act in order of someone else. Something else. We don't know what that something else is yet, but it carries on into the next era. Basically, all the team members survive, and it's assumed that Deprive is dead, but something else is coming. Whoa! Time travel! Can we go back to 2014 with the particle accelerator explosion? Okay, let's chill out with all these references. I always wanted to have a film mainly focused on time travel, and this was the best time to do it, before the finale of the Dark Era. You see, Andrew accidentally travels back in time. He doesn't know why, and he doesn't know how. And this is a genre I did not subconsciously know I was doing. A mystery genre. This film explains how future and the timeline are all connected together. It also explains some rules of time travel that I made up myself because, hey, this is my universe. I can make the rules, and I can break the rules. It's a nice little diversion from all the dark storyline until he comes back into the storyline. Yeah, we can just never escape him, can we? Here we have it, folks, the finale of the Dark Era, the Forbidden Tree 4. I said time and time again that this was my masterpiece, but it's really not. It's not. This film is important for establishing the storyline to the next era, the Creator Era. It also establishes Dark as this character who's basically had enough of himself, and he's wanting a path to redemption. This film is extremely important for carrying out such an emotional resonance into the channel. At the end of this film, we see Dark getting erased from existence because he accidentally shot Andrew, and that sends a shockwave to the whole Andrewverse. Oh yeah, by the way, Normie gets revived because of Future. Yep. And it's heavily implied that the energy from the tree carried on to Andrew so that he wouldn't actually die. Wow, an inanimate object cares about an animate object. Wait, I'm not an object. Here we have it, the beginning of the Creator Era, Fallout. Certain quotes and soundtracks come back from Fallout to Infinite Age Part 2. Most of the cast returned from the previous films, but we also get introduced to new ones, including the Creator. He establishes his menace right away, and would secure his place as top villain of the whole Andrewverse. He supposedly wants to destroy the Andrewverse for unknown reasons that we'll find out later on. Wait, we're still doing LEGO films? And this doesn't fit in the Creator Era? What is going on? Yeah, I decided that I wanted to conclude the LEGO films. And believe it or not, this does play a role in Infinite Andrews Part 2. It is not required that you watch this. If you want to know the end of the LEGO story and where they came from, then yes, you can watch this film. It has some nice camera work and cinematography that only gets better as it goes along. The first half of the Infinite Andrews storyline, released last year. The creator reveals that he wants to destroy the Andrewverse because the Andrewverse destroyed his world, so now he's paying them back. He was the one that created the whole Andrewverse for the sole purpose of being the one. It also introduces a MacGuffin called the Codex, a book so powerful you could write anything on it and anything would come to fruition. This film has a lot of great scenes in it that establishes what's to come for Part 2. Also introduces a lot of new characters and sacrifices some old ones. It's also the first film where I decided to use a cliffhanger. And oh boy, I got reactions from everyone.
Yeah.
No.
Creator.
Wait. What?
Yo!
And now that a storm is outside of our house, let's talk about a storm that blew my channel away. Mind Game. A lot of thoughts have been in my head recently, but not just recently, thoughts that I had years ago. And I really want to pull all those dots into one. There's also a time in my life where I decided to make a decision, and a lot of the anxiety came with it as well. This was also the most ambitious film that I had to make at about the time, and I was very nervous to do so. But I did it anyway. This is where we got Mind Game. This film calls back to a lot in this channel. This also dealt with the feelings I had for a girl that I liked and adored for since the beginning of high school, and I wanted to let all my emotion out in this one, as evident by the last quote.
But just know that you made my life better than it had any right to be.
This film introduced the mind game, a very interesting mechanic that will come to play in Infinite Andrews Part 2. An important film in the series, and an important film in my life. I wanted to continue the concept of having themes in my mind carry out. Believe it or not, nostalgia is one of the first themes I had whenever I wanted to create a film, but I never had a chance to properly make it into a script until right now. This establishes a very important character named Forbidden. He possesses the power of forbidden trees and actually has the power to take him out. He also has the power to bring back universes. He is one of the most powerful characters and one of the most important, as he and Andrew learned a lot around the way. And Andrew in this film realizes that he cannot escape the past, no matter what's going to be there. So at that point he has to embrace it. And since the rain is acting so crazy, we decided to move because I do not want to be near that window. Dreamscape is another important film, and it establishes another character named Dream, who has a very interesting item called the Dreamscape, which is very similar to the Codex. It can create stuff like the Codex as well, but it's going to require a train of thought. I decided to go back to my beginning era of my roots of the channel, while also staying true to the creator era. This is what a modern day beginning era film would look like, so, for you beginning era fans, the magic is still there. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the final film before Infinite Andrews Part 2, No Man's Land. And hey, Thunder, great timing right there. There's a storyline that I've been doing for the whole of 2020, and that is Andrew with his death storyline. The creator says he'll die on August 10th, 2020. This establishes one more character, Music Selector, who basically can shoot compressed air, also has music in the background, which that's not part of his powers. We make a recurring joke of it. This film establishes something very important, and that is the return of one of the most favorite characters. This film is important for establishing what is to come for Infinite Part 2. And so that's it. Get ready for Infinite Andrews Part 2 on August 10th, 2020. Bye, people of Century, and I'll see you at the premiere.